Hello, this is Mrs. Taylor, and I'm going to show you how to use the quadratic formula to solve a quadratic equation where the answer is irrational. So that means my answer, my solution, will have some square roots in it. So, just a refresher, quadratic formula, opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And so identifying my a, b, and c, a would be 4, 2 would be equal to b, and c would equal -5. So if I plug those values into my formula, it would look like this. Opposite of b means -1 times b, so 2 is my b value. If I multiply it by -1, I get -2. b squared would be 2 squared minus 4. A would be 4, and c would be -5. All over 2a, which would be 2 times 4. And just a reminder, when we are simplifying, we want to work with what's inside the radical, the radicand first, because we aren't going to put this in the calculator, get a decimal and round it. We want exact answers. So one really easy way to make sure you get it right every time is to put the radicand in your calculator. Now, if you're confident with your arithmetic skills, you're more than welcome to square the 4, multiply 4 times -5, and combine all that together. But if you're not confident with that, that's fine. You just enter it in your calculator exactly how it is written down in your formula. So 2 squared, that was supposed to be minus 4, and then times 4 times c. And so your radicand is now 84 once you simplify it. And then the bottom, the denominator, 2 times 4 would simplify to 8. Now, 84 is not a perfect square, and if I wasn't sure, I can try on the calculator and find out the same thing. So what I have to do is I have to simplify the radical using all the rules we learned in the last unit. So over here to the side, the square root of 84, if we factor 84, I can factor it using 4 and 21. If 4 is a perfect square, so I know this is not simplified as square root of 84 because it has a perfect square factor. If I kept factoring, I'd get 2 and 2, and then 7 and 3, and if I have a pair of the same number, I would pull 2 out to represent that pair, and then whatever didn't have a pair stays inside the radical. So in other words, I took the square root of the perfect square and left the not perfect square inside the radical. So this would actually simplify to 2 square root of 7 times 3, which will be 21. So now I'm going to replace that radical with its simplified form, which is 2 square root of 21. Now, from here you have 2 choices. You can either look at this quotient as a whole and simplify with it written with the plus minus, or you can break it up into 2 cases and 2 fractions. So in other words, what I mean by that is I could rewrite this as -2 over 8 plus or minus 2 square root of 21 over 8. Break it apart into 2 fractions. I could take it even further and write it as -2/8 plus 2 square root of 21 over 8, and then -2 minus 2 square root of 21 over 8. However, I don't think that's necessary because square root of 21 is not a whole number. And so I'm not going to have to continue to simplify like in the rational problem where I actually have to add and subtract the 2 numbers on the top. I can't combine them, so I can leave it as just plus minus. So what I do need to do is reduce fractions. If I have 2 over 4, that can be reduced to -1/4. And then the 2 over 8 here, or excuse me, I said 2 over 4, but it's 2 over 8. 2 over 8 here can be reduced to 1 over 4 again. And we hardly ever see this 1 written here. We usually just leave it off because anything multiplied by 1 equals itself. I made a mistake. That's supposed to be a 4. So my final answer is -1/4 plus or minus the square root of 21/4. Now the other option would have been to just leave it in this form and recognize there's a 2 there, a 2 there, and an 8 on the bottom. And all of those numbers are divisible by 2. So I could have just divided a 2 out of each of those and kept it as one quotient. So -1 plus or minus the square root of 21/8. Not 8. I keep doing that. Over 4. Either answer is acceptable. It just depends on how your brain works. Whatever you do, do not factor a number out of the radical. Remember, we can only simplify like items. Square root of 21 is the square root. So I don't divide anything outside of that radical, just what's in front. So that would be my simplified answer for this quadratic equation solving. And that would be an example of an irrational answer, an answer that has a square root in it.